the clones assault Mount Tantus, and the Emperor gets wind of it and is like, oh no, like he needs, oh no. He's got to get... What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Explained Weekly Q&A. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And we're going to talk about Rogue Squadron and the Acolyte and the Bad Batch. First, we like to do a little catch-up over the past week and just talk about how Star Wars found us.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a silly thing this past week. So a week ago, I was the best man in one of our best friends' weddings. And in the middle of partying, they brought out these like foam light up things. And I don't know if they knew this was going to happen. They should have figured.
They were like pool foam toys with little lights in the middle of them. They're only about like this long.
And they were like obviously little party things, but very quickly everyone, and we did not start this.
No.
I saw our friends in the back. We were on the dance floor and I saw people off the dance floor using them as lightsabers, and I was like, well, I want to go do that.
Someone was like, we're doing a lightsaber fight, and we like whipped around like, all right, we're in.
So we all wound up filming a bunch of stupid lightsaber things in the middle of a wedding. We all ganged up on Matt and attacked him. Our friend Jeremy did General Grievous. It was super, super fun.
Who was his other arms?
Zach Burkett, okay, who Schmodown fans might recognize.
I figured.
Yeah, it's like a ton of our good friends now have become like content creators and stuff. So Jeremy, who was Grievous, is our great friend at Gameservatory, who makes some of the best videos about video games I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt is part of a Warhammer channel called Slam Sector. And
which you've been on.
Yeah, I've been on it, playing not Warhammer. I played Star Wars Shatterpoint. But just about every member of Slam Sector was at the wedding, so shout out to them too. But moving into some actual Star Wars news from the past week, Elo Asti asks how we feel about Patty Jenkins maybe working on Rogue Squadron again. So when we're filming this news happened
last night. Yeah.
I think in the middle of our live stream for the Bad Batch. And people have been messaging me like, are you so psyched? Or like, I heard Alex scream from Texas. And I'm like,
I can't trust it.
I want a Rogue Squadron movie. But yeah, right now I'm just like, okay. I'm just tired.
Well, okay, so the source is what? A podcast? It's Patty Jenkins?
It is Patty Jenkins. It's straight from her mouth.
But it's not anything official from Star Wars.
Right. So there is that. But I figure there's something to it. But it's just... Listening to the podcast, I think the line was that she left to do Wonder Woman 3, and then Wonder Woman 3 wasn't happening, and now she... Like, they revisited the deal, and now she owes them a script. So to me, I'm like, this is probably something where she delivers a script, and then they decide if they want to move forward with that project or not.
Yeah, that... Just the choice of words there, like, we owe them a script, that doesn't tell me that this movie is back on for sure happening.
Right. If it were, then I think maybe they would have talked about it at Celebration. Those three movies are the ones that I have the most faith in right now. Mm-hmm. Plus The Mandalorian and Grogu, which got announced afterwards. I mean, that sounds like it's first up. But Rogue Squadron, you know, when they first announced it in 2020, I jumped up off the couch and like ran around the room. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, it's been almost 4 years, and the behind the scenes stories surrounding it have been pretty tumultuous.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not putting a whole lot of hope in this.
I'm not either. Of course, I think it would be a great movie. I think it would be a lot of fun to get a movie centered on X-Wing pilots, but we're still so early in the process. Like, the script is still being written.
Right. And it's like they had 3 years already, and no movement had been made on that. So it's all very... And you didn't have a script when you announced the project.
Yeah, that's... I feel like fans are just a little bit like, whoa. Mm-hmm. We've been burned before. let's take a beat. Let's take a second to just really look at this from a wider lens and be a little bit more skeptical on whether or not we should get our hopes up and get excited about a project.
Right. So I'm always going to be hopeful that somewhere down the line we revisit Rogue Squadron in some way, or like just a big pilot story. I've said before, I think it would make a great streaming series or something. I would take more books. Video games are obviously, I mean, we got Star Wars Squadrons, but I think there are a ton of different ways that we could explore Rogue Squadron. But we'll see. We've already got 4 movies that I feel like are probably going to happen. Fingers crossed. And even that, I'm still like, I'll believe it when my butt's in the seat.
Right. Well, to hear Daisy Ridley talk about how different and unique the script was for her movie that's coming, that gets me excited.
And even that, it's more she knows story beats and doesn't have a script.
An actual script. Yeah. But she knows the big story beats. They're supposedly going into production, next year maybe?
I'm not sure. I think Mando and Grogu, something came out that said it was going to go into production this year. Maybe June or July. I'm not sure on that. I just feel like I read something that was like, that one's going into production soon.
But Daisy Ridley was thinking that they would maybe start late next year.
Late next year? Okay, well, that one I'm pretty confident in, and then the other 2 are a little farther in. I mean, Dave Filoni's movie seems like a given, with all the streaming series. The Mangled movie is the one that I probably want the most, and I'm like, the most
that one's
hesitant.
The furthest away.
Yeah, and I'm like, don't let anything happen to it, please. That's actually a great segue into the next question from Lil God, who wants to know if the Acolyte will be a litmus test for Lucasfilm and telling stories outside of the Skywalker Saga. Because this is the first live-action Star Wars story that is set outside of that episode 1 through 9 time period.
I mean, I think when you talk about a litmus test, the fans of the High Republic books and comics are already out there. They're rabid. They're ready to go. They're like, give me more of these stories. So the fandom has already got a pretty solid base. And even then, the Acolyte is set towards like the end of that era. So it's going to be different, but I don't think it's going to be that massively different. I don't think it's going to be as different as what we're reading in the books. There are going to be a lot of Jedi from just the footage that we saw at Celebration, which I think will pull all fans in, no matter what.
I definitely think that there is an element of experimentation with Lucasfilm here. And you're right, it's set 100 years before the films, so it's going to have High Republic aesthetic, but it's not like we're jumping wildly thousands of years ahead or back or anything.
Right.
Because it's still going to be pretty familiar.
You don't want to plop fans into a completely new time period, people that may not even know about the High Republic books and comics.
Yeah, I think most people won't. It's
still going to feel fairly familiar, I think, to most fans, but with there being a character in it like Vernestra, who we already know from the High Republic books, it is going to get people who already know about the High Republic very excited, I think. And it's going to pull a lot of new fans in as well.
I think that there's going to be enough potential, characters who are alive at that point. Oppo Rancisis fans might be jumping off their couch, running around in circles.
How many Oppo Rancisis fans
there
are
there dozens
out there?
Of us.
Leave a comment below. Let us know.
If Oppo Rancisis is your Glupshido.
Let us know how long you've been waiting for Oppo Rancisis in live action.
Oh man, he was almost going to be in the Clone Wars, and then those scenes got cut. Like they modeled his lightsaber and everything, and then those scenes didn't make it in. Sorry, Oppo Rancisis fans, but
we'll get there.
But I do worry a little bit that I have high hopes for this series, and the way that Hollywood operates, there is an element of like, if people don't respond to it, then there is potential for them to be like, oh, maybe no one is interested in things without Skywalkers. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that they come out of this optimistic no matter what.
Yeah.
Because I personally don't want to keep just going back to the Skywalker Saga well.
We really can't. Star Wars has to move on at some point. Star Wars is so known for over the years being so innovative in storytelling.
Yeah.
We gotta We gotta try something new. It's time.
Yeah, totally agree with what you said, that Star Wars is always about expanding not just its universe, but in technology and storytelling. And I think that is part of what The Mandalorian has people drawn to it in some ways, like the volume and all that. But yeah, we can't just keep doing the same things. And I have such high hopes for the Acolyte. I think it'll be exactly what I want. If it's terrible, I'm not going to be like, well, let's just stick within this 70-year time period. I'll be like, no, I still want to see James Mangold's movie.
Yeah, I think as long as they, they've already built a base of High Republic fans through the books and the comics, which is great. And I think the Acolyte will be just another little baby step towards something new. It's going to be familiar enough for most casual fans, but it'll also connect the two separate fandoms of like casual fan doesn't read any books and the rabid High Republic fans like we are. So I think they'll just continue to take little baby steps towards that so that they can build up a lot of hype and excitement for something new.
You're saying a lot of smart things today.
I drank my water today.
I think what you're talking about, baby steps, is absolutely correct. Is they already have been experimenting with stories outside of the Skywalker Saga. The High Republic books were an experiment. And like, let's see how people respond to it.
Young Jedi Adventures, they got the little kids in it too now. All the little kids are like, Mom, Dad, where's all the High Republic stuff? And the parents are like, the what? And then here comes Disney, the Acolyte.
Yeah. And certainly not everyone loves the High Republic. I really love it. I'm responding to it. But it has developed a substantial fan base already. Being at the High Republic panel at Star Wars Celebration, that was one of my favorite panels last year. Because people were just going nuts for everything. And they were talking about books and comics. And then they showed us all the Acolyte trailer again, and Leslie Headland came and talked about working with what was already there for the era, weaving in characters and aesthetic and story ideas. So I do think that they experimented with books and comics, and they're like, okay, people are responding to this. Let's give it a shot in animation. Okay, let's give it a shot in video games. We saw it in Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
And I think that they're seeing some good response. So they're like, all right, live action, let's go.
Yeah.
I think they've done a really good job of just testing the waters and building up to it. So,
I mean, look at the response that happened in the crowd at Celebration when we saw Gungi show back up, or Gungi. I don't know how we're saying it.
Gungi. I think you said it wrong twice.
Great. Perfect. Come at me from all angles about saying it all kinds of wrong. See that reaction, and then cut to Jonas Suotamo coming out in costume as his High Republic Wookiee Jedi. Like, people freaked out when they saw that, and he looked so good. I'm so excited that Jonas gets to play a Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah. That's also just a cool, evolution of his career. I'm really ready for them to put that trailer out.
Any day now.
Yeah, come on. The footage they showed at Celebration, it's like, I feel like when we talk about the Acolyte, I just keep going, trust us, bro, trust us. And it's like, people were there. They saw some really good footage, and I want to see more of it.
The fight choreography alone, just the little bits that we got in that footage, people were like, so hyped. We were all vibrating after seeing that. The
Force fighting kung fu. Like, if you liked Ezra in Ahsoka and him fighting with the Force, like, that looked great. This looked better. And then seeing just a bunch of Jedi with a bunch of different lightsabers, cool haircuts, cool costumes, lots of aliens.
Yeah, that's something that I keep hearing people say they want to see more of, is more alien species, because the people who grew up watching Clone Wars, we got a lot of that in animation. So this Acolyte series, I think, is going to give fans a lot of that.
Yeah. I think it has potential to really find that balance between the seriousness of Andor, but still have a lot of pulpy, weird fun with it. That's... I'm excited.
I should have worn my Acolyte shirt. Who cares about Bad Batch?
I'm
kidding. I'm kidding. I love Bad Batch.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I heard that Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Ryan Reynolds' company Mint Mobile offers premium wireless plans for just $15 a month. That's less than half of what I was paying before. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Star Wars. That's mintmobile.com/Star Wars. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Star Wars. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Speaking of the Bad Batch, Michael Insline wants to know if more clones joined Rex, or did they stay with the Empire, or did they go out on their own? I think from what we've been shown so far, Rex and Fireball, R.I.P., and Nimic, R.I.P.
Don't be named Nimic in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
It's just an instant way to give yourself a death sentence. I think from what we've seen, Rex's group wasn't that big. Hunter pointed out, like, oh, your numbers are growing, but for the most part, I think that clones haven't been able to join Rex if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Even in the latest episode alone, Wolf's group, he had a bunch of clones with him, so they were already outnumbering Rex at his height, I guess, Rex's group.
Yeah. I guess I just assumed that there were other offshoots of Rex's like main group. Like, was Teth supposed to be like their main base?
I guess that's true. We don't know that. I'm kind of making a lot of assumptions because Echo left and picked up Gregor. We don't know where Gregor was at.
Yeah, and I still think Cody is out there somewhere. Like, I don't think he's completely lost to everybody yet. So I think there are other cells probably working deep undercover in other places. I bet Echo knows where they are because he's always just going off. He's
always going somewhere.
Doing his own thing.
That's a good point. I guess my assumption was that Teth was their main base and that was most of their group. If that's the case, then I think that the group is pretty small. So I imagine that most clones, the second they show any hint of independence from the inhibitor chip, straight to Tantus right away.
You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail.
Yeah, they're getting their brains scrubbed down.
They're going to be experimented on. I think Wolf is probably headed there now. Probably every clone that was with him, because they didn't stop Rex and the others. The Empire, I think, is like, we'll use the clones as long as they prove to be useful. And we do know that some clones last until the original trilogy time. We've seen a handful of them either as Imperial Royal Guards or still as stormtroopers. But I think for the most part, any clone from this era is going to wind up at Tantus.
Yeah.
I don't think many of them got the chance to join Rex.
And that's scary because it's like if a clone group like that just doesn't finish a mission, doesn't complete a mission, they don't want to care. Like, they don't care about the details. Like, they're just like, all right, well, you're done.
Yep.
You served a purpose. You couldn't finish it the way we wanted it done, so you're going straight to Tantus to be weirdly experimented on by Hemlock. Like, that is so dark to think about.
So I guess I think at this point, most clones probably just stayed with the Empire and kept on working until they had, like, this aha moment. Cody had one, Hauser had one, and he convinced other clones to put down their blasters. Not all of them did. So I think each clone just needs to have someone point out what's happening and spell it out for them.
Yeah.
I feel like the inhibitor chip probably does have power over them until someone can break through and be like, are you questioning what you're doing at all?
Yeah, until someone can give them some hope. Like, we saw what Crosshair was like when he was out at Mount Tantus. He had convinced himself that he was supposed to be there, that he deserved to be there. And Omega kept being like, wake up, man. Like, we got to get out of here. So I think whenever this whole thing comes to a culmination and they can get to Mount Tantus and start giving these clones some hope, that'll snap them out of it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the clones at Tantus have broken out of their inhibitor chip by then, of just of seeing how little the Empire cares for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I keep going back to the first time we saw it happen. It was in the Kanan comic. And I was like, it's one of my favorite comic scenes from Star Wars when they capture Kanan and they're getting ready to shoot him. But he is like, you betrayed Master Depa Billaba. Like, why did you do that? Mm-hmm. And he starts to make them question the orders. And one clone is like, oh my God, you're right. Why did we do that? And the other clone, it doesn't faze him. But the one clone winds up saving Kanan. And I'm like, that already informed me that, okay, clones can break out of this, but they just need a little push.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that one way out moment at Mount Tantus. Can you imagine?
I cannot.
Chills.
Yes. Joby-Wan Cannoli asks how energy bows and crossbows work. Since we got to see a new weapon the other night, Joe does admit, obviously the answer is just they look cool. Don't think about it too much, but I thought we could have some fun speculating on it.
Yeah, so projectile energy weapons. What kind of other instances have we seen?
Ezra's little slingshot thing. He only used that for like an episode or two. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of like any blaster, maybe. I think it is probably a weapon that you need to load or charge. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it's solar powered. You just gotta like charge up my crossbow real quick.
Yeah, I always try to channel George Lucas when we get asked questions like this, because it's just like it just looks cool.
Right.
I don't know how it works. You're not supposed to know how it works. It just
like
looks
Joby-Wan
cool.
Cannoli straight up says that is the answer. But
yeah,
for when a reference book comes out, and maybe one already has, and I just don't know about this, but I guess I'm expecting that like Omega's crossbow, somewhere you have to load it with a pack. And I bet it sustains a charge for a long, long time. But every time she pulls it back and pushes it forward, it might load like a new bolt that is then charged with some sort of energy. Mm-hmm. That's my guess.
That sounds great to me.
The bow is a little harder to wrap my head around. I don't know where you would load something that then you would pull a giant bolt of energy out of.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's like the same tech as a blaster, but maybe the projectile is like less powerful, maybe? I don't know.
I could, knowing that at least the bow, maybe the crossbow, it seemed similar, just different colors, but that's a Night Sister weapon. So we might just say they are literally magic weapons from like Dungeons and Dragons. It's just they make magic bows that shoot magic energy and you never have to reload it.
Perfect.
That might be the actual in-universe answer.
I wonder where Echo got it, though, because he was like, I make a lot of connections around the universe. And we were like, do you, Echo? Do you happen to know Ventress?
We were we're trying to find ways of, okay, how does this series get us to Ventress? And I think the M-count discussion, looking for someone that can help decipher what this impossible mystery means. What is this riddle? That might lead them to Ventress. Mm-hmm. And it is possible that Echo already knows. So like maybe he has met her through Quinlan Voss or something.
Mm-hmm. I would love that. Let's see it.
Jack Perry wants to know if we're going to see Darth Vader in the Bad Batch. And this is a question that I think has popped up every season. Mm-hmm. But, we're entering the last half of the last season, so sometimes I want to revisit these questions. And people have pointed out my own argument. They're using it against me.
You.
That they did make a model for Darth Vader for one scene of the Clone Wars Season 7. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to do that, perhaps they would reuse it. I am leaning towards no, though.
I am too. I think if he were to show up at the very end of this, like somewhere, I think he would just be in a scene. He wouldn't have any lines. He wouldn't do anything. He'd just be standing there next to Palpatine. But other than that, I don't really think it's going to happen, just because, you know, Star Wars has talked a lot about how they want to use him sparingly. And when they do have Vader show up in something, it's going to be big and scary and like intense. And I just don't know that we have time for that. I mean, there's always time for that, I guess. But
Well,
like, I don't know if it's needed in this story.
That's more like, I don't know that it's needed. I could certainly see a way of if the clones assault Mount Tantus and the Emperor gets wind of it and is like, oh no, like he needs, oh no. He's got to get somebody like Vader get over there and save Project Necromancer. There's definitely an avenue for that.
But would Vader do that, though? Because he'd be like, Project what? Ew.
That's true. Ew.
Ew. Are you trying to replace me with your own stupid clones?
That's true. Like, I don't think Vader knows about Project Necromancer until he finds out in the comics.
And I think Palpatine is keeping it that way on purpose for now, at least. To bring Vader into this and be like, go save this thing, and expect Vader to not ask questions about it afterwards. Like,
well,
I
maybe
don't
he
think
says, go save the Zillo Beast. Like, I have a lot of important plans with the Zillo Beast. Like,
Vader's like, not this again.
Really? Again? Okay. So I do think that there is absolutely a way for Vader to enter this story. I'm just not sure that it's needed. I'm not sure that we need another scene where Vader just shows up and slaughters all the clones, because I think that's what it would be.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm like, I don't want to see a bunch of clones die in the Bad Batch finale. I bet a lot are, but I hope it's instead more One Way Out.
Yeah.
Than the end of Rogue One.
Right. And you know, if this were more centered around a character like Rex, who worked very closely with Anakin, there would be more room for a scene where they reunite and fight or something.
Yeah.
But like, for the Bad Batch to run into Vader,
yeah, they
and
went
fight,
on one mission with him.
Like, I don't really see a purpose in that for wrapping up the story of the Bad Batch.
There is something to be said about, you know, Rex and Wolf and Gregor. They go off on their own. They exit the fight, and it could be that that's the tragedy that makes Rex just want to go if he recognizes Vader and Anakin, and he's like, well, this sucks. Just wants to go hide.
Maybe if they get word that that's what happened to him. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm leaning towards not really wanting it to happen, just because we've had so much Vader, and I don't need him to like come in at the end of every story and kill a bunch of people.
I'm curious, like, what you guys think. Like, put up in the comments below if you want to see Vader show up at the end of Bad Batch.
Part of me is like, I don't want it because I don't want everyone to die.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it would be an exciting scene. It's like, he's someone that you don't need to explain. Sure. Quinlan Vos, Asajj Ventress, maybe people will need a little bit of history on them, but Darth Vader can just show up, and everyone's like, I know who that is. And
we also talked a little bit about, like, we've already seen Palpatine show up to Mount Tantus to check on Project Necromancer. Like, we've got the big bad.
The biggest bad has been there already.
Yeah, so, like, to bring in Vader, would that lessen the impact of Vader then? To, like, you've already got Palpatine, and then Vader comes in to, like, clean up his dirty
Probably
work.
not. I don't know. Like, I think people are pretty split on who their favorite Sith villain is in Star Wars.
It just makes more sense to me to keep it to just Palpatine, because he has a direct connection to Omega and like his potential plans.
I entered this conversation being like, I don't think I want it, and now I'm like right on the fence where I'd be I'm sure I would be very intense if it happened.
Of course it would be cool.
It would be cool, but it would just be scary and intense for everyone trying to escape. I'm just hoping for the happiest possible ending.
Yeah.
I like, if people are like, who do you think's gonna die in the finale? I'm like, no one. I hope no one. My guess is no one, because I want to be happy. Jordan Stanley asks, what's the deal with all the hand injuries in the Bad Batch? We've got Crosshair and his trimmers. We've got Hemlock and his glove. The clones are getting blood taken from their hands. So is Omega. Is there any connection to all that, do you think?
I mean, I don't know about the blood being taken, but I do like the symbolism and the connection of Hemlock's hand injury and Crosshair's hand trimmer, because I think it comes down to like representing trauma, emotional, physical trauma, whereas like Hemlock maybe never fully recovered from his trauma, and that's why he is the way he is. And then if we can see Crosshair recover from his trauma, maybe his tremor goes away.
We've been talking about Hemlock and his glove, and my guess was that he probably heard it in some sort of experiment, and now he just hides it.
Yeah.
But you're right. Crosshair has this trimmer, and he's maybe going to have to work through it or accept it and be like, I'm not a sniper anymore, and I have to find a new way to use my talents. I do think that his hand is a symbol of what he's going through.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a connection between Hemlock and Crosshair. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's one with the clones. That one's a little tougher, but I think that was just maybe the least horrible way to show a bunch of people having blood taken from that. Like, you wouldn't want to see Omega be like, bah, once a day.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. And like I said, I don't know if we'll actually see Crosshair like recover fully from that tremor. Like you said, if he has to accept that's a part of him now, that's just another part of the rehabilitation process that he's kind of having to go through. And to show that Hemlock has just covered it up with a glove and is constantly rubbing it and dealing with it. You know, it's like...
That's so... Yeah.
It just represents the constant pain and struggle that it takes to be an evil person.
And he's trying to hide it, but can't.
Right.
Whatever it is, he's like, I'll just cover this up and no one will know. And then he's constantly like drawing attention to it. That's really interesting. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.